Hi, this is Sue Moran. I'm the chair of the Board of Selectmen, and I have Doug Brown, Selectman, with me as well. And we're doing the State of the Town discussion that we've been doing periodically with various members of the board. So welcome, Doug. How are you?
Good, Sue. How are you?
Great. One of the things I thought might be interesting for folks, there are a lot of forums about civic engagement and people getting involved in what's going on in the town, in the state. And so I wondered, what was the spark that got you interested in volunteering for the town and ultimately into town politics?
Well, my first spark was the Village Association in East Falmouth. I got started with that in, I think we were 2002 or 3. And at the same time, I started to notice things around town and take a little interest. I remember driving down Main Street and looking at the Main Street renovation and thinking, geez, those curbs look a little low, and I wonder who to talk to about that. And
isn't that your profession? Aren't you a contractor?
I'm a building contractor. I'm not a road guy, but I still have a pretty good eye. And I just said, geez, I wonder about that. And then as the project progressed and I saw the sidewalks tilted even more, and I started to get involved and ask some questions, and I felt like maybe I could help my town a little bit. And I wish I'd have been there a little earlier to be more helpful. We did have some renovation issues with that, but so that was my original spark, and I got involved in town meeting, and I volunteered for the Housing Trust and then the Town Building Committee, and kind of got a little more involved in things as I went.
You know, I'm always impressed with the way the village associations really carry the initiatives and bring issues to light. I think more successfully than a lot of committees sometimes, because those are, you know, it's an organization of folks in their neighborhoods. So for certain issues, I think that's sometimes the best way to move things forward. And I know you're still, I believe, the president of the East Falmouth Village Association.
I'm not the president. I'm just on the board now.
Okay.
I'm a past president. And we had, you know, what's great about village associations are they really help get things done that people need done. Like we had the Route 28 paving project coming up. The paving was to be done without sidewalks. And the village association people were like, geez, you know, when we talked about it at our meeting, we said, really, we need to get some sidewalks involved in that project. And we tried to engage selectmen and town people and politicians even. I sent letters and requests for assistance to any politician I could think of, all my reps and local people, and I wasn't getting a lot of feedback or response. And the time was coming closer and the months were going by and the paving was about to begin. And we finally made a petition. And we put the petition at the Family Foods, the Tedeschi Market, and Kenyon's, 3 places, one weekend, and we got 764 signatures.
Wow.
And I faxed it up to the Highway Department in Taunton. And right away...
So the state?
Yeah, the State Highway Department. And right away the Highway Department took notice and responded with a phone call and said, we got your petition, we're taking it under advisement. And that was the first real response I had gotten, except for maybe one selectman. I remember Kerry Murphy said, I did see your letter, and you know, it's a good idea and we should talk about it. But time was coming so fast that we did the petition, and then we sent it off. Within a couple of weeks, he got back and said, we think you might be onto something and we're going to look into it. Within a couple more weeks, he said, we're going to include the sidewalks. It was a $1 million paving project, and it added $1 million to it.
Wow.
But we got a sidewalk from Seacoast to Kenyon's, which is important because that's a dangerous stretch of road. And
a lot of people walk to get to work.
A lot of kids are going back and forth there. You know?
Right.
So.
And, you know, that's an interesting kind of nexus between what the town has control over, certain roads, that being a section that the state had control over.
Right.
So you kind of had to work with both the town and the state, and very, very successful.
Learning curve.
And it's so, we had the opposite situation. I was president of the West Falmouth Village Association, and there was a sidewalk planned on 28A that village did not want. So it's kind of interesting, and it shows how important it is to really look at what the folks who live in that area, work in that area, really want to need, you know, before you start a project and spend money where you don't necessarily need it. And in terms of investment of money, I know that the town has, I think very smartly, invested in a lot of studies in terms of coastal resilience. But we've got a lot of smart people around here. We've got Hui, a lot of scientists, a lot of great brain power. But I think kudos really go to you for saying, all right, now let's do it. Let's, it's the Nike thing.
Yeah.
We've studied it. We know there are issues. Let's start looking at implementation. So how did you get that idea?
Well, as you know, I'm a member of Falmouth Water Stewards. We're very involved in waters, not so much as estuaries, but the Falmouth Water Stewards, FACES it was originally, and Falmouth Water Stewards, I'm on the board of that. I'm actually the vice president of that. We've paid a lot of attention to the coast and the ponds, and while I'm at it, I'm doing a lot of bike riding up and down the bike path, and I'm looking at the erosion, and I'm realizing it's a problem. And we've had studies done, I don't know, 15 years ago. We had a nice big study about that big, with a lot of great ideas that really didn't get implemented. And another, maybe 8 years ago, we had another revised.
Rob Thaler, I think, was into that,
he was involved with that.
USGS.
And a lot of good recommendations and a lot of heads up, and the town should be taking action on these things. So for me, I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel or really figure things out anymore to know we have a problem. And I just felt like it was time to move. I was on that water quality plan review committee, the sewer planning, what was the name of it? I forget the name now. It was the original the original water quality committee, and we had a comprehensive plan of sewers, whatever. So that was pretty much an action committee. We were moving fast. We only had 8 months to review that $600 million sewer plan and knock it down to $290 million.
Wow.
So that showed me that things can get done rather quickly. And so I'm not really that patient of a person. So when I see that I'm riding down the bike path and I see that the coast is wearing away. Trunk River.
Sure.
We got that sewer line there that
Right.
I'm aware of. And I just felt like we needed to really take action. So when I don't know if it was me that suggested it, but when we came to the idea that we needed a new committee to study the coastline, we wanted to call it the Coastal Resiliency Action Committee. And actually, that's a great bunch of people that really are very smart about what they're working on.
Really is, and I like how it's something the planning board is interested in,
Right.
conservation's interested in, so it's one of the opportunities that several of the town's committees can really take a look at and give input to. And that's one of the things the Board of Selectmen has done much more often of late, is the sort of joint meetings to put ideas together and put them into action. One of the things I know that Sam Patterson is really interested in, and he's spoken with at a few of the meetings, it's sort of a segue, is the requirements with respect to the flood maps.
Right.
And that there are some advantages if, as a town, Falmouth puts some commitment and some time and money into. And you were really carrying that as well. So
Well, that's another part of the coastal resiliency is the hazard mitigation plan. And as a result of having that completed, now we can focus on the community rating system. And the community rating system, it's a series of check-offs that we have to accomplish with training for staff, milestones that we can complete, and different levels of things we're just getting started with. But when we check these things off, we start to get credit for our homeowners that are paying for a very expensive flood insurance. And every time we check something off, the percentage drops down of the cost for them. And if we check off all the boxes, they might save 45%, which is a lot of money for people. So
that'd be great. Now, how long do you think it's going to take to get there? Just how many steps are involved?
I don't know, but it's a long page of steps. So we could be talking a few years or...
But we're started.
Yeah, better to start now than...
And are there grants involved?
I think the Coastal Zone Management grant funds a lot of these things. So we just got the grant for study of how to revise the situation at Minot Beach. So Minot Beach, we're losing 4.1 feet a year of beach, and we know it's going fast, but we don't know exactly why. We changed the inlet several years ago, maybe 30, I'm not sure how long it was, and we brought it over to the other side, which some people say is the original, and I guess they're going to figure out if that's working. I guess so far most of the experts agree doubling that opening is the best way to flush Bourne's Pond more effectively. But I've talked to a few local people and they say it doesn't make sense that we didn't have such fast erosion years ago when the channel was on the other side. I don't know if you remember that, but we used to enter on that old wooden bridge, and the entrance was there for the pond. And the other side is new to me. When I was a kid, that wasn't there.
Right.
And so it's just a question. And hopefully this study will, it's a $124,000 study to figure out the sediment transport. And it's going to be, I believe John Ramsey and Applied Coastal will be doing, I don't know if they do all the work or most of it.
That'll be interesting to see how that comes out. And I know I obviously do a lot of work with the county, being an Assembly of Delegates member, and just generally keeping aware of opportunities for Falmouth through the county. And one of them is the county dredge. I know that you actually attended the meeting in Plymouth that was recently held. If you could talk a minute about that.
Well, I spoke to the fact that I feel like we're always behind in dredging. When we finally get our channels dredged, we realize we wish we did more on the inside sometimes, and it's like we're always waiting for the next year. It appears to me. Now, I'm a little bit new at this with the dredging, but I feel like we could be doing a little better.
And
then
who held the meeting?
It was the Jay Ash, the Secretary of not Environment, he is Economic Development.
Right.
And he feels like the dredging is holding back economic progress in a lot of ways. And it was interesting at the meeting because I'm up there complaining about my lack of service.
Right.
And for me, it's just a little channel and the pleasure boats have to wait till high tide, so we're inconvenienced. But for some of the towns, they have deep water ports that are supposed to be 35 or 40 feet, and they're down to 25 or 20 feet, and they're turning away vessels, and they have underserved ports. So I'm a little concerned that they're in more trouble than we are. So we might have to fend for ourselves a little bit, because I got the feeling that he was going to prioritize dredging for commercial purposes, like fixing these piers and things, and like Fall River and New Bedford and places like that first.
Sure. I can understand the priority that he has. But from our perspective, first of all, I think it's great that you let, Falmouth's voice be heard by attending, the bigger meetings. But from the point of the, Cape Cod issues, the county is getting a new dredge.
Right.
And so I think that that's something to focus on, to be sure that the schedule, keeps a fairness in terms of Falmouth getting as much dredging as it needs, along with the other communities. So maybe that's something that can be followed up within a month or so, when I hope the next dredge is delivered.
Well, another reason I'm glad I was there, the Barnstable County dredge representatives were right sitting behind me as I made my comments. And I did point out that I was personally unhappy with the fact that the dredge pipe sat on Minot Beach through the 4th of July, and our channels to Green Pond and Great Pond were not dredged through the 4th of July.
Right.
So we're underserved, and whatever it takes. I mean, I was acknowledging that maybe we need to buy our own dredge, but with the new county dredge, maybe there'll be enough now to go around, and if we can get some real commitments. But I think we need commitments of dates, when things are going to be done. And Jay Ash was very receptive to the idea of maybe enlarging the window, because if we have to wait till January 15th, and be done by, I don't know if it's March 15th or whatever it is, it's a very short time.
It is.
And everyone needs work done, and they have to wait until that time to do the work. It just...
Scheduling is a problem.
Yeah.
Last question.
Okay.
So since you are a fairly new board member, what are the things that you found most surprising?
Most surprising, how much there is to learn. And I thought that with all the time I've been on the planning board and town meeting, I thought I was pretty knowledgeable, but there's a lot more to it, and it's very interesting. So that's the biggest surprise.
I still find that myself, and I think that folks might be interested in our strategic planning meeting. We really focused a lot on communication. In fact, you and I are meeting soon with the town manager in terms of, bringing constituent issues in a more organized fashion, so there can be follow-up and things that the town manager works on all week, to sort of let the board know before we have to make a decision, what things might be coming down the pipeline.
And also on the same note of, I'd like to be more informed of what's coming down the pipeline, so that I can put that out there correctly when people ask me questions, because it's our job to know what's going on. So we have to seek this information and make sure we're prepared when people ask us questions, that we have the correct answer.
And that, that's what I think is so, I'm so proud of the board, because every single board member really has a great work ethic and really just wants to serve the constituents in the best way possible. And so I think it falls upon the chair and some of the town manager to make that happen. And I appreciate you partnering with me on the communication issue going forward, because I think the rest of the board will really appreciate that as well.
It's important. I know it's, as I said, when I was trying to do the sidewalks and I felt like the selectmen were too busy for me, I know how it feels to not be heard, and I just didn't like it. It was a very important thing. And whenever people have neighborhood issues, it's important to them. It might not be as important as a sidewalk, but whatever it is, it's important to them, so we need to hear it and react to it.
Absolutely. Well, that's really benefiting Falmouth, so thanks for that. Thanks for watching the State of the Town address, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks, Sue.
Great.